Lato w Synagodze pod Białym Bocianem to coroczny festiwal muzyczny organizowany przez Fundację Bente Kahan we wrocławskiej synagodze. Już od 14 lat nasze koncerty umilają wrocławianom niedzielne wieczory i pozwalają zetknąć się nie tylko z fantastyczną muzyką, ale też wyjątkowymi artystami. Naszym koncertom zawsze przyświecała idea spotkania artystów z publicznością, muzyki z historią, kultury żydowskiej z innymi tradycjami i z naszą wrażliwością. Wciąż pozostaje to dla nas najważniejsze. Tegoroczna edycja będzie jednak wyjątkowa. W związku z obecną sytuacją, dbając o bezpieczeństwo państwa i naszych gości, postanowiliśmy przenieść nasz festiwal w przestrzeń wirtualną. Wbrew pozorom, ta nowa forma da nam możliwość jeszcze bliższego poznania zaproszonych artystów dzięki wywiadom przeprowadzonym przez Bente Kahan. W tym roku w każdą niedzielę od 19 lipca do 30 sierpnia o godzinie 18 spotykać się będziemy nie tylko na koncerty, ale także rozmowy, poznamy historię artystów, ich fascynację i muzykę, tak wyjątkową jak oni sami. Zapraszamy! Projekt dofinansowany ze środków Gminy Wrocław.
Verken die Scheinkeit von einem verstehen. Verken die Schein von deine Augen sehen. Und nicht zerrissen werden soll sein Herz verfreit. Und nicht zerrissen werden soll sein Herz verleid. Du, meine du, meine du, meine du.
Thank you so much.
Funkar det?
Yes, thank you.
That works, yeah?
Louisa Lyne is our guest today. Thank you very much for joining and wanting to do this interview with us. I know you're on vacation.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm up in the northern parts of Sweden. I don't know if you can see some snowy Alps behind me. I'm right now in a place called Yiddisher, quite close to the Norwegian border, very far up.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you are born not far from there.
Well, I'm born up in the north, but on the coast side. So now I'm close to the Norwegian border, but I'm born on the coast side. so it's a bit.
How many people lived in your city? Can you tell me a little bit about your childhood up in Norway? Because I have to tell my audience that Louisa is the singer in Yiddish in Sweden, and she comes from north of Sweden. So I think it's very interesting for us to hear about your childhood and how you found your way to Yiddish.
Yeah, well, I'm from a musician's family. Both my father and my mother are musicians. My father is a classical composer, modern classical music. And my mum is actually a teacher in Baroque instruments. So I was brought up in a very musical home, surrounded by a lot of different music all my life. And my dad's from England, so I always been very brought up with the understanding of different cultures and like a multicultural home. And this little town called Härnösand, it's I think they say it's around about 15,000 people in the city, and then maybe sort of 30,000 people in the whole of the what you say, borough. What's the right word in English? Sort of the larger community. And from an early age, I was very interested in all types of music and dance and theater. I was very much attending all types of dance classes and theater classes, and I started singing in choirs when I was young. And gradually I started to take up a big interest in musical theater, which many young girls do. Um, so I trained as much as I could with a very clear aim to be accepted to one of Sweden's finest musical theatre schools down in Gothenburg. So that was actually my first transition from Härnösand when I was 18. Well, I was actually 19. I moved from Härnösand to attend musical theatre school in Gothenburg. But up until then, I've been, living my whole life in Härnösand, just being very influenced and very helped from my parents and with all their musical background. But no
So,
Yiddish and klezmer whatsoever in my childhood. I didn't even know what it was. I'd never heard of it. I had no idea. So it was a very big surprise to me, a very pleasant surprise to me when I came across klezmer music um, during my studies in Gothenburg. And that was actually more of a coincidence. I just found myself at a concert once, and a woman there sang a few songs in Yiddish. And I had no idea what she sang. I didn't understand a thing, but I was so mesmerized by um, the music and the sorrow and the way she sang it. It was something very special to me. So I became very, very interested in this type of music, which I know it sounds strange, but it just uh, something was very convincing, and it was so honest. Something, yeah. The music, it was very appealing to me anyway. So I started to try to find my way, and back then, you know, you went to the library and you tried to find a CD or two that actually had some klezmer music. Maybe there was a few Bente Kahan CDs there at the library. I can't really remember, but there wasn't very much to choose from. So I remember I borrowed everything they had and I started to listen. Some Chava Alberstein, of course, they had. And from that way on, it just continued and continued and continued and continued, and my interest just grew and grew. Um, so it's quite a sort of unlike story,
that is
but it
fantastic.
happened.
And then you
Yeah,
moved to Malmö. You started to sing,
yeah,
and you had your
yeah.
own band from the beginning, or how did you get to with the Yiddish text? How did you you just learned from the CDs or the recordings
Well,
or?
yeah, in the beginning it was just as we say. I just listened and I repeated. I had no idea where one word started and where one word ended, and I actually kept on doing this for perhaps 1-2 years. You know, just listening and reading the lyrics in the CDs and just trying to, um, repeat. So I didn't understand anything, but after a couple of years of this hobby singing, this just singing for fun, I realized that if I wanted to, um, take this a step further, I had to understand Yiddish and I had to sort of gradually understand what I was singing. So what I did was that I Googled on the internet for some kind of Yiddish course. And what I came across was the Jewish Music Institute in London. They offer summer courses in both Yiddish and in Yiddish singing. Um, so I signed up. I had no idea what I was doing. So I signed up and I went over. And I remember the first day we had um, we had a little repetition of the Hebrew alphabet, and I didn't even know that Yiddish was spelled or written with Hebrew letters. I didn't even know this. So when I was sitting there in the school bench and they handed out these pieces of paper with Hebrew on it, I panicked, you know, what is this? Where am I? But if I just sort of gradually tried to start to learn the Hebrew alphabet, and it was like a very big undertaking, of course, for me. But I was so encouraged and so helped by the teachers over there in England. So from that point onwards, I think I returned, 5 years, just continuing to trying to sort of understand and learn.
I
Sorry?
understand that that some of the Jewish, Swedish Jews, they took you
Yeah?
in with very open
Yes.
arms.
Yes. And I think that was a big part of it, actually, because when you find a new interest, I think it's very important, or maybe even critical, how you are how that is perceived. And for me, it was very nice experience because people were so encouraging. And I remember I was living in Gothenburg at the time, and I went to the synagogue, and I was helped with the Yiddish teacher called Staffan Bös, and he helped me immensely. And they were so encouraging, and they gave me books, and you know, they wanted me to come and sing, and you know, they wanted me to continue, and that was so encouraging. So and without that, maybe I would have never really had the courage to keep on doing it. But since I was so, you know, cheered on, that helped me immensely. So I always I never felt I was doing anything wrong. Even though I sang a lot of things wrong in the beginning, I never felt that I was in the wrong place. People were so warm and encouraging. Yeah. And I felt that almost all through my career. People have been very positive, and I'm very happy for that and thankful for that, for this crazy Swedish girl wanting to sing.
And then you moved to Malmö.
You live in Malmö now, don't
Yes,
you?
yes. I live in Malmö now, and in Malmö it's been the same. People have been very encouraging, even though Malmö has a bit of a more orthodox synagogue. So there, it's not as liberal as it had been in Gothenburg. So I haven't been perhaps in so much contact with the Orthodox community, of course. But people still, you know, people just Yiddishists in general have been really helpful, and also I've been very encouraged also by the local community. I mean, non-Jews, people like me. Who find this very interesting, and just find my story very interesting, that me as an outsider can come in and really, you know, if you have the respect and if you really try to do something correctly, it can be it can be a very interesting combination. And lot of the times I've actually felt almost I've been a bridge between Yiddish, the Yiddish community, to the non-Jewish community, and been able to sort of show them the Yiddish songs and the culture, and that this exists, and it's just wonderful. So for me, it's been, the whole journey has almost only been a positive one. And I think
Well,
that's been important. Otherwise,
I just wanted you to tell a little bit about Malmö, because you know today we think about Malmö, a very complicated place. First, they have a lot of right-winged people, and then they have also new immigrants who are quite anti-Semitic.
So Malmö is
yes,
a very infectious place, but they're trying to do a lot. I know they're trying to do a lot about
yeah,
it. So how is your
yeah.
reaction? I mean, playing Yiddish, it's not always so easy. I mean, among, of course, the
No,
Jews and those who like this music, but it's probably also people who don't like it.
yeah, no, you're completely right. And but it's also been, for me, it's also been a bit easier, I think, because since I'm not Jewish, I've been able, I think, to avoid. I have been able to avoid this hatred because it's not actually aimed at me. Then people might think I'm silly and just, you know, why is she wasting her time doing this? But I have never really come across myself any type of hatred. And I think also because that's because I'm not Jewish, so and they know this. So even if they perhaps think I'm stupid in many ways, I've never really seen this firsthand. And also, I know that the community has been very affected by this. But I also must say that in my experience, this is actually, this right-winged problem is not only in Malmö, and Malmö's become sort of a talking point, but actually it's quite spread out in Sweden throughout, sadly, I must say. But there's many other towns and cities around here. You know, we've had a right-winged party that's gained more and more votes. And this is throughout the country, even though it has been quite extreme in the south where I live now. It's not only a problem in Malmö, but I also think that through this, what I've seen is that, as you say, they really, the whole of Malmö town and the whole community, they have also made a lot of effort to try to smooth things out, and there's been a lot of nice projects where, for example, I've been around in schools singing Yiddish songs, talking about the Holocaust, educating school children. So even though, of course, I understand that there's been a lot of issues in Malmö, I think the problem actually is wider than it's not just centered to Malmö, it's a problem in whole of Sweden. And also that I personally haven't really seen it firsthand.
I can see that you have a YouTube clip where you are also singing about the Holocaust and dealing with this subject.
Mir Leben ewig, es brennt av eld. Mir Leben ewig, ohne Groschen Geld. Und neufze pike nicht die alles on ihm, was willen uns verschwärzen, unser Ponym. Mir Leben ewig, mir seinen Tod. Mir Leben ewig in jeder Show. Wir wählen Leben und erleben schlechte Zeiten. Überleben mir
Yes,
Leben
yes.
ewig.
Well, it was actually 2 years ago I finally decided that I wanted to do something with this material. And it took me quite a long time into my career, eight years of professional singing Yiddish songs before I felt I had the courage in one sense to take on this material, this strong material. But I did so because there was a strong need for someone to bring these songs to school children across our country. And in my role as this Yiddish singer, non-Jewish Yiddish singer, I felt it was my task, more or less, to do this. So what I did was that I put together a school concert program that we call Yiddish Revolution, which is aimed for children 12, 13 years and upwards. And what we talk about is, first we present what Yiddish culture is. We play some traditional songs and we say this is what Yiddish looked like before the war. And then, boom, we present them to the Holocaust and we talk about what happened. And this we talk about through different perspectives. One song, for instance, we talk about Sweden's role in World War II and how we actually enabled the Nazis to continue doing certain things that wasn't very pleasant, wasn't very nice at all. So this has been actually a bit challenging to bring this to Swedish school because not everyone will agree with us. But after this, we come to the third part of the performance, which I believe is the most important. And this is what we can do today on a daily basis to make sure that this thing never, ever will happen again. And what we do then is to talk about courage, how we can on a daily basis have courage to stand up to people who have these thoughts and to actually just put down our foot and say that we don't agree. We have to be strong and continue to work all together to have this a better society, a better community.
I agree with you. It's really important work you're doing, Louisa.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic. It's so much needed. And you really take on the task of being a Yiddish singer is more than just singing some songs.
Well, yes, and actually we've done so much during the years, but this has been almost the most important part of it because we've reached out to so many school children and it's been so educational also for me because actually it's been terrifying to play for 14-year-olds. I mean, that's the hardest audience you can imagine because they will just stare you out. They're sitting there in gangs. They don't at all want to be there. They want to be out doing something else. But it's been so educational to actually be able to win them over. And at the end of everything, even though they can sit there and I had to break the performance so many times and tell them that you have to sit down, you have to sit still, otherwise I'm not going to sing another tone, and I have to do this so many times, but it's very it's very nice to see then that this actually works, because at the end of the performance sometimes these kids have been coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I said that. I'm sorry, I, played my mobile during the during the performance." They've actually come up to me afterwards and said that, "Oh, but this was actually a very nice performance and thank you, blah blah blah." But it's been such a very interesting journey playing for these kids all through Sweden, and hopefully.
I know that you have been working with your Yiddisher for 10 years. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your musicians.
Well, for 10 years I've been working, yes, with my Yiddisher and we're all musicians living in Malmö, even though we're from different parts of the world. We have a violinist, Irina, from Riga, and our accordionist is from Bosnia. We have a bass player from Finland, and then me and my brother, we are half Swedish, half English, and then we have a Swedish girl, Anna, as well on board. And
you have come to Wrocław several times with this band.
Yes.
How many
we
times,
have.
Louisa? Twice.
Yes, I think twice, and this would have been the third time for us. We were so looking forward to it because.
Yes, but how do you experience the audience in Wrocław? Do you like our audience?
Yes, we love your audience. Actually, it's so interesting because you can really feel the difference when you come from Sweden, which is a country that don't. I mean, in general, we don't really know very much about Yiddish here. We don't, in general, know very much about Jewish culture. And when I tell people that I sing in Yiddish here, people say, "Oh, what did you say?" You know, they don't even know what it is many times. But what I found in Poland actually is that. You have a greater understanding. You can really feel that there's a bigger connection historically, and all of the cities, Wrocław and also Krakow that we've been to also a couple of times. You know, they ooze this lovely Jewish history many times, and with, of course, the White Stork Synagogue, beautiful. So it's been it's very fun for us to play for an audience that know a bit about the culture in comparison to play.
And I think the White Stork Synagogue like you and your band very much, and we're looking forward for you to play live next year.
Well,
so I'm going to say Shana Haba be Wrocławiu next year in Wrocław.
Next year in Wrocław,
live
definitely.
With your Yiddisher Kapelle.
Oh, we look so much forward to this. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Hej då.
Hej
Tack så
då.
mycket.
Der Tag ist vermacht, jetzt kommt die Nacht mit Sternblech und Kerzen, mit Kurves. Stiebt mir im Schluch der Mäuswurf von der Woche, rein in die schmutzige Turmes. Das Kind geht a Kiki na Träume dick Heus, wie a richtiger Maligkeit rein a Reisoi. Elend in dem Abend, dem Späten. Ich schlug mit das Herz dicken Watz. Ich hab verkauft für die Proste mein heiliges Miras. Soll Gott mir entschuldigen, einzig Geschieres, für die darin Gebeine verstädte. Sehn euch wie die Hände und im Hals. Das weiß schon alle in Städten. Schenk mir ein Wort, wo je gram sich mitsehen, wenn ich schon hab, nichts mehr zerbrochen wie all in neu. Und in einem Abend, dem Späten, ich schlug mit das Herz dicken Herz. Beine versteht sehen euch wie die Hände im Herz. Ich hab kur nicht mehr in der Welt zu gewinnen und meine darin Gebeine versteht sehen euch wie die Hände